Thank you.
Yes,
Uh,
please. You have the mic. Go ahead.
and first, I want to thank the Arab Organization in the UK for today's program and a whole number of educational programs over these terrible months. Normalization of genocide is not an oversight. It's not just ignoring this horrendous daily crime against humanity. It is a conscious erasure of all discussion and information. It is the assassination, execution, martyrdom of courageous journalists operating on the ground in Gaza and in the West Bank. It's censorship without parallel in the US. It's a closing of tens of thousands of Twitter X accounts, Facebook accounts, YouTube, WhatsApp, Instagram accounts, interruption of Zoom calls. All social media is privately owned by billionaires who are Zionist owners, and they operate with US imperialist interest first and foremost. It's consciously prohibiting information on the complete destruction of hospitals, medical clinics, schools, universities. It's also an erasure by disrupting again and again the refugee population forced to move again. Now, here in the US, we saw in glaring detail in both the Republican and Democratic Party conventions, both banned any mention of Palestine, any opposition to US funded and equipped total war in Gaza today. Absolute censured conventions. No Palestinian or even Muslim speaker allowed at the DNC. Now, according to the New York Times, Kamala, and they support her, Kamala Harris gave the most hawkish acceptance speech ever presented. You can dress it up any way you want. US policy and their entire strategy is to continue the war and to provide Israel with every possible way of continuing the war. US aircraft carriers ring all of Western Asia, every possible body of water, and yet they fear to fire because they fear the firestorm of response, of wider resistance. And that is what they fear. The rulings of the International Criminal Court, the International Court of Justice, important as they are, and they are important, but they're ignored with a shrug. They're barely reported in the US corporate media. So it is up to the people of the world and the people of the US to continue, but to at the same time recognize it will not come from either political party. The millions in the streets, in demonstrations and encampments who face mass arrests, suspensions, cut in financial aid, they're the ones that make the change. And we should remember during the very height of the Vietnam War, when millions and millions were active, there was never even a resolution passed in the US Congress or the Democratic or then the Republican president opposing the continued bombing until the war was over, until US troops had left. The US only withdrew from that war because there was a mass movement that was too overwhelming. US soldiers and the US recruited Vietnamese soldiers literally refused to fight. AWOL soldiers exceeded US soldiers willing to be drafted. Now, this is what's happening in Israel today. The Zionist state is collapsing, it's pulling itself apart. The level of internal dissension, people are leaving. And I think this confirms that change comes from below, as every political movement in the US and also in Arab history, it's come from below. The world movement has to keep going, keep fighting, and keep defending the Palestinian resistance, which is surely a movement that has come from below and from the grassroots.
Ms. Flounders, since you are co-director of the International Action Center, now we can see all the international resolutions and all the ICC resolution or ICJ resolutions are being denied by the superpowers, by America and that. So there is a kind of pessimism from the international community that these resolutions will be applied either now or after a while or on the day after. So, is there another way, since you are at something like Action International Action Center, apart from these formal resolutions, is there something like more practical that we can say that it's kind of duty now, the priority now for moving or something which can affect this, especially these Arab countries who are normalizing with Israel as well, and they are repressing their people in the streets just to pass this kind of relations with Israel. There's something you can suggest we can do?
Well, I was suggesting what we can do, and that is to continue to support in every way possible, legally in every way, publicity in every way, the movement that's been in the streets. And as the campuses open again, this is what will push the change through, and to demand that these resolutions already passed by the court be abided by, be listened to, be enforced. That's what's not happening. They're just casual shrug. Oh, well, something was decided. It's not even reported here, but it is reported within the movement. It's an international movement of resistance. And I think our role is to highlight that, and actually also to highlight the statements coming from the Palestinian resistance, who are risking everything, life itself, in the millions, in order to keep fighting. So this is where change comes from, and recognizing it with support will make a difference. And not saying, oh, we only got to rely on one political party or another. We have no choice. We got to do the best deal we can. If all that energy went into supporting the mass movement, the students, the people who are in the streets, and those who are in the courts, because I'm not against supporting any one of these movements or resolutions or union resolutions or actions coming on Labor Day. When the UN session in late September is in session, all kinds of demonstrations are being planned. When Netanyahu is here, when other co-conspirators are here. So I think all of that is extremely important, and that's where our confidence should be, our determination should be.
Yeah, because since there's no legal or moral responsibility by on these kind of countries, they are supporting what's happening in Gaza. I mean, there is some people think that there is no way out, that they cannot apply these resolutions, they cannot even try to move or touch their morals to try to sympathize with what's happening in Gaza. So it's sometimes it's reaching an impasse that they what to do. I mean, both ways are really blocked. So hopefully
I
this will.
I I agree. It's being blocked. It's being blocked here. It's being blocked in all of the Arab countries. It's being blocked. And yet, when you look at the support that has come from Yemen, that has come from Lebanon, it does show what is possible. And it will take mass pressure in the countries that are conciliating with this. Of course, they face enormous U.S. pressure. They face all kinds of economic, political, and military pressure, and threats of coups and all kinds of things. Yes, they do face that. But it's, again, in my opinion, it is the movement from below that can force those leaders, because even now they try to speak out of both sides of their mouth because they fear the mass movement. And as that movement becomes
That's
stronger, they will become stronger.